Well, good morning everybody. It's Monday, July 3rd, and I thought I'd come out and take a little tour of our vegetable garden. Show you how things are progressing. It's about 11 o'clock in the morning. It's mainly cloudy and very humid, so any little bit of exercise you do outside and you come back in drenched typically. Anyhow, let's do a tour of the garden. Here's a view of our garlic patch. And these were left in the ground over the winter. And you can see now they're 3 feet tall about. And we have been taking some of the scapes off already and using them in salads and whatnot, cooking. But I can see there's still a lot more here to do. So by picking these curled scapes off of the garlic, you're basically forcing the plant to put all of its energy into producing the garlic bulbs instead of putting energy into producing the reproductive part of the plant, which are the scapes. So that's why you pick them off. They're also very good to use, as I mentioned, in salads and stir fries. Just chop them up and put them in. So you get that use out of the garlic plant as well, but it does force the plant then to put all its energy into growing the bulb. Here's a little row of dill in between the garlic and the corn. Needs a little weeding down at the end, but not too bad. Before I start in earnest, I just wanted to say that most of the effort you see here has been done by my significant other, Diane. She spends untold amount of hours out here planting and weeding, staking, all that kind of stuff. I'm typically involved in doing the flower gardens here, and she typically does the vegetable garden. Now I did rototill in here to begin, but most of this other effort here, virtually all of the other effort that you see here, is through her pains and sacrifices, so that's where all the credit goes. So on the west side of the garden we have 4 rows of potatoes. These are going back about 75 feet. So we have several types of potatoes in the garden. We have some finger potatoes, which are smaller, narrower, thinner types of potatoes that are just good for using in small quantities for stir fries and things. Then we also have some of the more standard, larger red and white potatoes, such as Kennebec, growing in here. Next in line are the rows of corn. We have 2 longer rows and then a number of shorter rows here, just reaching over to the garlic where we just were. These are somewhat sparse because we did have some birds eating the corn as it came up out of the ground. I believe crows were probably in here picking away, so we had to replant some of that. So is our corn knee-high by the 4th of July, which is tomorrow? Yes indeed. Here's my knees and here's the corn. So most of it is knee-high. As I mentioned, some of it's shorter, but it'll just mature at a later date when we can still utilize it. And it's often good to have corn coming in at different times so you're not all finishing it at one time. So quite often we'll plant different types that mature at different rates, or we'll simply plant one week after another in the spring, and then they do mature at different rates. Here we got a number of pepper plants, several different types, growing here in the central part of the garden. Off to the right we have a number of basil plants that we really like to add to salads and cook with. We also have a mix of tomatoes growing here, from large to small. I believe she said these staked ones are called Amish. We also have some big beef tomatoes And I'm not sure what other types we have growing in here. We have scattered groups of leeks growing in the garden. See a couple little short row sections here. North of the leeks we have a long section of parsley. This light green row that you can see here extending. And of course, every year we're competing with a number of other creatures that want the garden food too. Potato bugs are one of our biggest pests. We tend not to use any spray or insecticidal stuff to control them. Diane tends to just prefer picking them off. It's a slow process, but as long as you keep on top of it, it does do the job, preventing them from basically devouring the whole foliage of the plant. Here we've got a few zucchini plants growing, some larger, some smaller. Some were chewed off a bit by rabbits earlier in the summer. A few rows of beans in the garden, typically set against the fence just to help them climb a little bit if they need to. I think we have green and yellow type beans growing out here. Then we've got a number of cucumber plants here in a row. I think we have a few others elsewhere too. The central row that you see here are multiplier onions. So you can just pick off one or two of the set that are growing in the rosettes here, and then the remainder keeps growing. So they're a handy onion to pick for various uses. Then the central row here are green onions, which are predominantly used just on the tops to chop up into various stir fries and salads and things. Here we've got several rows of radishes. Just a few turnip plants scattered within the radishes here. Most of our lettuces are now enclosed within these old gerbil cages, just to keep rabbits and chipmunks and things from eating it. So we've got romaine lettuce, predominantly Boston lettuce, a few other types in there. Beside the cages here we have spinach growing. And down this end we also have the larger Spanish onion type onions, which are these dark green onions here. You can see this cucumber plant already has a couple cucumbers ready to be picked. One there and one over here. In this little raised garden here, there's a mix of things. There's some lettuce, there's also some coriander growing here, also some radishes, and at the back there you can see some garlic that seeded itself in here. We didn't really plant it in here. So there you have it, our vegetable garden as of July 3rd, 2023. Things are looking pretty good, even though we haven't had much rain. That's one of the major issues we've had again this year, is just not a lot of rain. We did have a fair amount to get it going well, but we're starting to lack rain now, even though there have been decent rains all around us over the last few days. But we've just managed to be in this dead zone that often doesn't get much rain.